If 2020 taught us anything, it's that you cannot be invisible online anymore. You have to have a presence. You have to have something that speaks to your brand and who you are online. So going forward here in 2021, that's what it will be all about. So last year I had put on a great panel, a live event that we were fortunate to be able to do in San Francisco called The Social Realtor. And in a follow-up to that, now being in the virtual world that we're in, I've decided to host a all virtual panel, all female panel, which I'm super excited about, called The Social Boss Lady. It's going to feature 6 very high-powered female bosses who absolutely kill it on social in their respective spaces, all under the real estate umbrella. And there's gonna be a lot to learn from. So this panel is going to feature first Shivani Peterson, who happens to be my sister, but she's not on the panel for that reason. She's on it because she was the top producer last year for All Western Mortgage. Caitlin Henning out of Boise, Idaho, works in marketing and business development for another mortgage lender out there. Got Liz Novello, who is a rock star real estate agent out in the New York and New Jersey market. Also happens to be Gary Vaynerchuk's sister. Chelsea Peitz, who is a big coach and a best-selling author, putting out all kinds of information on what to post and real estate Instagram tips. Super excited to have her on this. Michelle Berman of Berman Social Media. She runs a high-powered real estate marketing firm out in Arizona, helping coach lenders and realtors on what to post and how to do it better. And lastly, we've got Megan Anderson, who is the VP of Marketing for MBS Highway. She's a big-time guru and coach in the social media space. And I'm looking forward to having all 6 of these women on this panel. So registration information on this event will all be forthcoming. Look forward to seeing you all online. All right, we live, Tom?
We are.
Okay. All right. I know people will still be filling in, but we are going to get started here. I want to welcome everyone and thank you all first and foremost for supporting this event wherever you are in the country. It means a great deal to me because of the charity No Kid Hungry and the impact that it has and how valuable it is during these times that we're in. So very much appreciate everyone supporting this. I want to thank our panelists who I'm going to allow themselves to take the mics here and introduce themselves. But real quick, just let you know, I wish I could tell you that I was very smooth when this was all being planned and that it would happen to end up in Women's History Month with an all-female panel. I wasn't that smooth. It was just pure luck and happenstance that it landed in March, but I think the event is all the better for it. And really the inspiration for this, as I mentioned in the promo video and some of the ads you've seen online, came last year when we did our event, but then wanting to do an all-female panel, but really, you know, and what's prompted us to go online here and do everything virtual anymore was COVID and the shock to the economy. And that, I believe, has taught everyone, or it should have by now, that if you aren't online, if you don't have a presence and you don't have a way to reach people, to connect with people, to have your message out there and to serve your audience, that for lack of a better expression, you might be shit out of luck and you might get left in the dust with all of this. So I wanted to bring these rock star females all together, all of who have proven well over time in whether it's this industry or a different space, or some of them represent multiple spaces, how you can do it well, and they're all always willing to share. So with that, I want to thank all of them for giving me their time and giving the community their time to do this event. We've been excited and wanting to put this together for a while. So thank you, ladies. And I'll call you out one by one, and we'll just allow everyone to introduce themselves with a quick line or two. So Megan, let's start with you.
Hi, everyone. Megan Anderson. As was stated, I'm the VP of Marketing at MBS Highway, which is a platform for loan originators and real estate agents to articulate the financial markets and really help them beat out their competition. And I'm really excited to be here today.
Thanks, Meg. Excited to have you. Liz. Oh, Liz, you're muted. There we go.
There we go. There we go. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Liz Vaynerchuk Novello. I'm honored to be here. My company is the Gosselin Group from Prominent Properties Sotheby's in New Jersey. And I have been in real estate for a little over 4 years, but really started social media from day one.
Thanks, Liz. Appreciate you being here. Michelle Berman.
Thank you. Hi guys, Michelle Berman here. I'm gonna give Arjun a hard time for saying my company name backwards, but we'll allow it. Berman Media PD is the name of my company. I've been in business for 7 years and I specialize in teaching realtors and loan officers how to create a digital footprint that can turn into a virtual handshake, ultimately to create new business organically through Instagram, and Facebook happens to just be a byproduct of that. But that's me.
Appreciate you being on, Michelle. Thank you, my
course.
friend. Shivani.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shivani Peterson with All Western Mortgage. I'd love to connect with you guys on social. So follow me on Instagram. If you're feeling forgiving, follow me on TikTok. And my goal in 2020 is to help as many women as possible. So if your goals are social, I'm happy to help you that way. Let's definitely meet on Insta.
Thanks, Shivani. Chelsea.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea Peitz. I'm a mom and a wife and a 22-year veteran of the real estate space. I jokingly say that I got licensed in 2001 BF before Facebook. So I did business the old-fashioned way for many, many years. I'm the author of 2 books. One is called Talking in Pictures. The other is called What to Post. And my goal is to empower anyone who's in the real estate space to not be overwhelmed with everything on the socials, and how to really create a human, powerful personal brand through easy tactics and strategies. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chelsea. Appreciate you. And last but certainly not least, Caitlin, who I had the pleasure of serving on a panel with, and that's how we connected a couple of years ago.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like you said, my name is Caitlin Henning. I'm with Willamette Valley Bank. I am a partner relationship manager. So essentially my role is to represent my lenders and work with our industry partners. My primary focus is social media and marketing. I've actually been in real estate since 2011 and doing social media since about 2009. So it's been really fun being able to kind of navigate and see all the changes. But my goal is really to continue to grow our brand name, since we're newer in this kind of market, and to kind of obviously go through and grow all the relationships that we're building with our industry partners.
Thanks, Chelsea. Oh, Caitlin, sorry. I was reading something because Chelsea's going to take our first question, so my brain was moving quick. Quick thing for our audience here. You're all muted and we can't see you. So if you are just lounging at home with a glass of wine in your hand and you're taking notes, which I encourage you to do, it's fine. No one's going to get to see you. Tom Tran of TNT Productions, who I want to thank for helping power this event, is going to be fielding questions. So anyone in the audience, you do have the Q&A option at the bottom there. If a question pops up throughout, or an idea, or it's just something that you want to address and have answered, please start forwarding those questions at any time to Tom, and he's going to aggregate all that. And at the end of the event, we will have some Q&A that we will feed that way. So audience, just do that. Otherwise, again, you are all muted. So do what you want in the back there. Just enjoy this. And again, take lots of notes, and we are going to get started. So Chelsea, you are going to be up first. How would you say that real estate professionals now in this current market can increase their visibility now this year on Instagram?
So I think that visibility is the new brand requirement. It's not okay to be anonymous any longer. And I was just talking about this exact topic in an earlier webinar, and I had a slide that showed a chart of how we trust people and what types of people that we trust. And shockingly, the largest bar across the graph was rideshare drivers. We trust rideshare drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers, over 80%. We trust our colleagues about 50 something, and our neighbors 45, and then it just went down from there. So it was really interesting to me, because really truly the only reason that we're trusting people getting into their cars, when we used to travel anyway, is that we see a digital profile. I can open up my phone, I can see their picture, I can see a rating. And so I have this sense, whether it's true or not, that I can actually trust this person. So it really drove home the point that it's so critically important to be present and not to be constantly on the socials or video, but to have that ability to connect with your sphere of influence in a way that's so human and easy. I saw my mom for the first time yesterday. We hugged for the first time in 13 months, and it was pretty awesome. And I didn't realize, during the pandemic, that we really are absolutely craving seeing other people. But what's interesting is my passion is the product psychology and the behavior design behind the socials. And it absolutely has created this behavioral expectation that if we don't see you, we will move on to somebody that we do see, or we may not even trust you. So let's take it out of real estate and think about this. If you were a parent looking for a nanny for your child to come to your home and care for them, if you Googled this person's name and found nothing on them online, would you interview them and have them come into your house? I probably wouldn't. I would want to make sure there was some kind of information out there, and that is how we've all been trained. So for me, specifically on Instagram, I would say the number one way to stay visible and top of mind and human is to create daily Instagram stories and to proactively engage with your sphere of influence, commenting over contenting, spending the time supporting and being a super fan of other people's content creates a very positive experience with your brand and allows people to see you and to have that attention be on you. And it's just a really nice thing to do for other people. So very simple. I spend, I have a 10-10-10 strategy, put 10 minutes on the clock, go down the speed for 10 and try to make comments, and then go across the story speed for 10 and try to make comments, and make that be your number one form of communication. Don't worry so much about the content. I mean, I believe in content. I wrote a book about it, but it's your comments are your content. And if you're stressed out about what to post, you don't have to be stressed about talking to people.
Hey, perfect. Thank you, Chelsea. That was awesome. All right, next up, we are going to have Michelle Berman. So Michelle, why would you say that IG is your absolute go-to platform and the one that you encourage agents to be on the most?
Yeah, that's such a fun question to answer. And my answer is pretty simple. There's really two big ones. Number one is that I personally believe Instagram is essentially 6 platforms in one, right? We have Snapchat on Instagram in the form of stories, as Chelsea mentioned, which if you aren't following Chelsea and looking at her stories every day, you guys are all like seriously missing out, because her dog is really cute and she's hilarious. But also just in general, right? Instagram is really 6 platforms in one. So Snapchat being stories, you have TikTok as your reels, Facebook, right, being your feed on Instagram in the visual sense. And I could keep going on and I won't, but ultimately to me, I think one of the things that I deal with almost every single day, and I just spoke at a 2-day conference, which is why I'm sitting in an airport. But yesterday I got to talk to them about, this overwhelming concept of like, Instagram is so hard. There's so many different parts to Instagram. What do I even start with? Right. And I feel like everyone asks that question. And the answer is just start with something, but Instagram allows you to do whatever you're the most confident in, right? So if you can make a Canva graphic, then make a Canva graphic and post that, even if it's not good to begin with, right? If you're okay with taking a snapshot or a quick picture and putting it in your camera roll, then you can post a story, right? You've already done half of it. So Instagram allows you to use the platform or creates a platform that makes it really easy wherever you're at, whatever stage in the game you're at. And I think the second part of it for me, especially during 2020 and during COVID and all, this was the first event I spoke at in real life in almost 14 months, I think, 14, 15 months. And the beautiful thing about it is that the people I got to speak with were people who I had built relationships with through Instagram, never met in real life. But when I did meet them, we didn't shake hands, we hugged, right? It was like I'd known these people forever. Right. And so for me, Instagram has really helped me create those relationships with people, not just personally, but professionally, as well as in a sense of creating I call it virtual handshakes usually when I'm talking about it, but it allows me to generate business with people who genuinely are invested and interested in me. And I don't feel like I'm having a cold call with anyone when they reach out. Right. So even if they schedule a call with me, I talk to them on the phone and they know more about me a lot of the times than I feel like they should. Right. I'm like, that's a little creepy that all of that, that I just got back from X, Y, or Z or whatever. But that's beautiful. Right. Because you get on a call and it doesn't feel like a cold call. And so your ability to generate really warm leads on Instagram is unlike any other platform, in my opinion.
Awesome. That's a screaming endorsement for the platform if there ever was one. So thanks, Michelle. Next question is for Megan Anderson. Megan, we have talked about this, just privately and offline, that putting yourself out there can be scary. And it's what is most daunting to so many people. But what tips do you have for those that are just getting started right now, especially with video? Like people that were offline 2020 and they're like, I got to do something this year. What would be your tips for them?
First off, remember why you're doing this at the end of the day, because it's really easy for that judgmental voice to kind of come in and say, oh, I don't like the way I look right now. Maybe you've gained some weight during COVID. Whatever the case may be, the first thing is to realize that your customers and your clients, if they're going to work with you, they're already going to know what you look like. So why are you so worried about that? But remember that we all have these fears and judgments, but don't allow them to have the driver's seat. They're always going to be in the back seat, but that's okay. But don't let that stop you. And another thing that I kind of hear from people is, oh, I really hate the way I sound. And I definitely relate to that one. When I first started doing video, I was like, oh my gosh, like I look young, I'm going to sound young. I hate this. But again, at the end of the day, everyone knows what you sound like. And one thing that really put that into perspective for me is I swore that I sounded different, whether it was on the phone or on video, than I actually sounded in real person, in real life. And what I did is I brought out my phone, I went to the recorder, I played it, I said something, and I went up to a coworker and I said, do I sound any different? And of course the answer was no, you sound exactly the same, but that really helped put it in perspective. And then once we get over that fear, try and find easy concepts that you're passionate in talking about to be consistent, because consistency is really key. And one tool that's really helpful, and I've seen it help a lot of originators, a lot of real estate agents, is the MBS Highway Social Studio tool. Because a lot of people, when they first start creating video, they don't know what to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they do and they're really passionate about it, but then they ramble on. And when you ramble on, you lose that kind of punch in your messaging. So we've created the scripts for you. It turns into a teleprompter. Do those for a while until you become consistent with that. You start to see results. And then all of a sudden you'll start to have this confidence where you're ready to go and you're ready to keep talking about these different topics and questions that you're passionate about.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. Really good stuff there. And this is a good follow-up to that because Liz is an actual realtor. And I know a lot of our audience here are agents. So Liz, where would you say as a starting point, what new agents right now should be posting about?
Yeah, I think as new agents, you're unsure, you might not have listings, you might not even have buyers, but very easy things to do are to go to these broker opens and video the houses that are on the MLS, showing the property, also spotlighting your businesses locally. So that's something I'm doing right now with Good Morning New Jersey. It started with me doing lives originally, and now I'm doing it on YouTube, but showcasing those local businesses because you want to become known as the digital mayor, and know your town well, so you could do that. And then people watch reality TV to have an insight of anybody and everybody's life. And I've watched from the Kardashians to a show I didn't even know the people in, just to see, and documenting just your own life, who you are, is something that I think is so important because people truly do want to see the inside of everybody's medicine cabinet and of your life as well.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely authentic and just being real. Caitlin, a good friend up there in Idaho. How would you say now, over this last year that social has really helped you grow your business? Maybe not even just this last year, but in general, because you've been on platforms for a long time since you grew up. I mean, that was your generation. You grew up with all of them.
Gosh, especially over this last year, we've had to become more and more online just in general. And then obviously being stuck at home, I think it was such a major adjustment. I've also been in various different roles within the real estate industry. I actually switched to mortgage lending the September kind of before everything happened. So I was slowly already starting to build my business. So I still felt pretty fresh in that. So going into obviously the pandemic and having to stay home, my role was to get in front of people, obviously so many others, but that really got taken away. So I had to learn to be even more creative online and really take advantage of social media to get in front of these people that I really wouldn't have the opportunity anymore. So that was kind of different. I was really so excited to go into the summer months and do all this stuff. And so I know like many people were. So that was definitely interesting, changing obviously the industry and jumping into that. And kind of like what was mentioned before, sort of how we were connecting, it really even, I guess, challenged me to be even more engaging with everybody because I knew so many more people were online now. So this meant I was actually trying to send more voice memos and videos, responding to so many more stories and reaching out to even more people within my community to really just kind of grow that network that I wasn't going to have the opportunity to do in person. And it was absolutely incredible the amount of business that I was able to get last year, not even actually doing the sexy part of real estate, to be honest. I mean, most of the time it is realtors, right? If you come, or even, I mean, there's so many other parts to that, but going into mortgage lending, nobody really wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to call my lender today. So it was definitely fun kind of learning on that front and try to make it as entertaining and as engaging as possible. But yeah, so I kind of say that's really how this like last year has made me change, is just the engagement part.
Awesome. All right, Shivani, rounding out here round one. What was it as, or why did you, I should say, as a lender start using social media for your business? Because it was predominantly, at least in the space, it was realtors that were doing a lot of stuff first, and lenders were kind of not necessarily picking up on the message. So why did you pick this up?
So I've been in mortgage lending 8 years now, almost, and I've had to build my business actually twice. So I did it originally when I first got into the business, but the traditional way, you know, cold calling Zillow leads, which nothing will make you lose your will to live faster. And schmoozing realtors who, you know, thought that they were here and I was here. Yep. And just, you know, going face to face, networking events after work, schmoozing, and the traditional way that you build a business. And then I had my first son and I kind of fell off the map for a couple of years doing mom life. I mean, I was still in the mortgage industry, not anything worth talking about. So when I was ready to try to make it to being a top producer again and really focus on my business, grow my sales, I didn't want to do it the same way as before. And I thought, well, I could use social and hopefully attract people who I would actually like to work with. So I sat down, and before I really started posting anything or creating content that was mortgage or finance related, I zeroed in on what my mission was personally and then created content that spread out from there so that I could, one, let people get to know me. Like so many of these awesome panelists have said, let people see who I really am on social. And then if they click with that person that they saw on their phone, odds are when we connect over the phone, things are going to go a lot better. I'll have already established trust. Like Chelsea was talking about, they'll have seen who I am authentically. But if they like all that, there's probably a good chance I'm going to enjoy working with them too. And we can do more and do better together if we actually like each other. So that was, for me, a huge pivot away from building a business the traditional way versus using social to do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Finding commonality. Michelle, let's come back to you for a second here. So you are obviously an IG coach and you help people out in the space. And there are a lot of people that advertise such services. I mean, it's a crowded space, as you know. What makes you different? Because you work with so many realtors and lenders, and I'm sure you work with probably some title and escrow reps as well and helping them build out their presence. So how is it that what you do has been really helpful and able to, really able to serve that community?
Yeah, so there's so many people in our space that are absolute rock stars, and so many people who I personally have learned so much from, several of which are sitting on this panel with us right now, which is crazy and awesome at the same, all in that same conversation. But I think for me, ultimately, I think what's separated me in our industry as a whole is I'm not a title rep. I'm not a lender. I'm not somebody who's doing something for someone else. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I have done that. I started out that way. But where I'm at now is my entire career is Instagram. Like I literally wake up, eat, sleep, breathe Instagram. And for me, ultimately, I came out of a psychology and journalism world. So I graduated with a degree in psychology and journalism, double majored, then got a master's in social media public relations. So my entire foundation of why I do what I do or how I do it is rooted in who do I actually want to work with? What is that person? What does that avatar actually look like, right? How do I create content that that person cares about versus creating content that I'm invested in for myself, right? Because it's not about me. And ultimately turning my platform into a place where people can connect with me through what I'm good at, right? I'm about to be a new mom to a boy, right? So for me, that's so cool that there's so many of us that have that experience, and growing a business and being a mom or a soon to be mom, like that's super hard, right? I can't imagine how some people do it. I'll find out here shortly. But what I think I've done differently ultimately to get to a place now where I can be a mom and still do this and still be, as my husband says, like the girl boss of our family, is I've created it based off of, if you take me out of it, our company still continues, right? And our platform can still continue because Instagram has given us that opportunity. And I just don't think that there's a lot of people that are doing it that way, or talking about it through a psychological standpoint. I think it's always about content, or post this, post that, right? Instead of, as all of us have said so far, get to know people because of what's going on in your life, right? And I think that that's what's different. Long-winded answer, or a long-winded way of saying that, but yeah.
Definitely. It sticks to the authenticity, which I love. So that's awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Megan, before I bring you back out, just a quick, I've seen the question come up, and I know Tom's written that back to everyone, but yes, this is being recorded. Everyone who purchased a ticket will definitely get a recording of it. Even if you're on it now, we'll send a recording if you have to get off early or you missed any parts or certainly want to rewatch and apply. But obviously lots of great sound bites here. So hopefully people will find this useful regardless of what industry you're in. I may have set this up initially, for the real estate community in space. We've got a realtor, we've got a lender, we've got a few lenders actually, we've got people in title, we've got marketing and coaching. But really, I mean, the social space is for everyone, and there's a lot to be learned regardless of whether you are in one of these industries or represent one of them. So Megan, back to you. We are in a changing market quite clearly. How should or maybe not, how should your social media strategy change to keep up with these changes, in your opinion?
So first off, everyone here has been talking about this avatar, this type of client that we're trying to reach. And part of having a social strategy is it makes it easier to continue to post. So you're not posting every day thinking, oh my gosh, what is it that I should post? If we understand where the market is headed, well, we can understand what questions, what concerns, what emotions that avatar or that target audience that you're trying to reach is going to have. So just to give you a little inside look at what we're kind of expecting and where the market is headed. And we know all this because we look at the housing reports, we look at the different economic reports, we look at the news every single day. Is, you guys know this, we've been getting mortgage apps week after week. Refis are down. Rates have been very volatile. They have been moving up. When we take a look at CPI, Consumer Price Index, which gives us a sign into inflation, and this is a 12-month rolling average. Well, in the beginning of COVID, we had some negative numbers for inflation. And what happens is every time we get a new number, it's a rolling 12-month average. So it's going to replace that number for that month. Well, we're going to start to see inflation here in the next coming months. May, June, we're going to start to see inflation. And as inflation rises, well, rates are going to rise. So what can you be doing now? Well, you can be creating content about, hey, don't wait to refi, get in on this before rates go up. There's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of that going on with purchases as well, because people are seeing the volatility in the market. So create content around that to kind of address those questions and address those concerns, and know and understand and be that forever learner that's kind of understanding, hey, what's happening in the market? Because that is going to make your strategy so much easier.
Thanks, Megan. Spot on. Just getting ahead of the curve. That's what it's all about. Liz, and this doesn't have to necessarily be for realtors, but anyone for that matter. I mean, if your biggest fear or reluctance is that you're just not comfortable in front of a camera, that's what people say all the time. I'm just not comfortable. I don't know if I want to get out there. I'll find a different way, or my old methods work for me. What do you say to colleagues that they see you doing it and they're like, well, that's great, Liz, but I'm just not comfortable in front of a camera?
The biggest thing that I think of when I hear colleagues say that is, that's okay because I'm willing to do it and I'm going to take over the business. Because I truly believe that this is the only way, building your brand is the only way to win right now. And I don't see it stopping. It's the same reason why when I write my grocery list, I write the detergent that I buy by the brand name, not actually laundry detergent. And so when people say that, I kind of jokingly say, that's okay, because I'm doing it and I'm willing to take all that business. But the truth be told is there's no choice. And there's a lot of things that you could do. And I empathize with people who are not comfortable in front of the camera. A lot of things, or there was an agent that recently I spoke to the North group, Amy Youngren's group, and the agent said, I'm just not comfortable. I said, well, why don't you still go spotlight a business, but don't have the camera on you, and ask a business owner to speak about their business? Maybe someone out there is comfortable. And so I think it's so important. People want to see your face, and maybe that's just putting a picture at first and doing baby steps. And I think that's okay. But I don't think there's a choice not to go this route unless you're just willing to, be left in the wind.
Right. I mean, you can just, if you want to test that theory, just sit out 2021 and see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. All right, Chelsea, coming back to you, my friend. You're obviously huge on video. You do a lot with stories. Would you say what is actually, in your opinion, the best opportunity for video format that's going to make somebody more visible on Instagram? And, I know there's a lot of video formats. So what are they and what should they be used for, in your opinion?
I think that there is a video format for everyone. If you like to do 10-minute videos, you can do IGTVs. If you want to do stories that are completely unscripted and you don't have to worry about editing, that's me. I do stories because it's fast and it's easy and it's human. There's a never-ending list of different types of formats of video that you can do. I think piggybacking on sort of what Michelle said and also Liz, the important part of the video piece is that this beautiful thing happens that we don't even realize is happening. It's completely subconscious. And I'm going to probably geek out a little bit on the brain, because everybody here knows I'm like a neuroscience, nerd. I got my degree in clinical psych. My first book was about the science of screen-to-screen communication, specifically from Snapchat and how that was changing people's relationships. And it's really about this idea of being camera first, showing your face, or at least having some sort of human element. Maybe it's your voice and you're talking about something that you're showing in a video, but at least somebody's hearing you. Then it's real time. So we're sort of in this real-ish time kind of category where you can be live and totally in real time. You can be on a Zoom and in real time, or you can be doing stories that are within a 24-hour period and still feel like you're on the journey. Like if I'm watching Michelle's stories, I know she's in the airport and what she's been doing, and that's really cool because I feel like I'm there with her in that story. And then I think the most powerful piece is that it's message enabled. So camera first, real time, message enabled. And if you can find any format that will do that for you, that is where you can go really deep and stay connected with somebody at any time. When I started in 2001, I had to have your phone number, I had to have your email address, and I had to have your address to actually contact someone. Now I can open any social media platform and send someone a DM, and they don't even have to be connected with me. So the ability to reach out and talk to people has never been easier. And to Liz's point, you don't have to believe everything for it to be true, to be honest. Like if you don't want to do video, that's quite all right. But we cannot fight the human behavioral training. It's like when Uber came out, I thought it was super bizarre, super unsafe. I would never do that. And when I traveled, I would take sometimes upwards of 10 Ubers a day when I was traveling doing conferences. And you know what? It just got normal, just like TikTok gets normal, just like Reels gets normal. And sooner or later, we start to think something's not normal if you're not doing it, if we're not seeing your face. So it's important to remember that industry is completely irrelevant, but behavior is not.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Caitlin, I want to ask you because you've given an answer on this topic before and I loved it. And this is common because some people had a personal profile and then, now they've got their business set up because they didn't want to merge them. So how do you answer that when somebody asks you for advice, or what's your take on suggesting whether someone keep business, personal, separate? Should you blend the two? Could you do both? I mean, what is it in your opinion?
So I get this question all the time, and I know some people are so hesitant to want to be able to combine them both. But I personally believe that it's so, so powerful to be able to show you and your business. Because realistically, yeah, you're going to get people that are going to work with you, maybe they're a referral here and there, whatever. But if someone can go online, see you, and begin to see some form of your personality or something you're passionate about or something you believe in or the narrative that you essentially put out there, and they connect with that, that kind of just builds this bond that they actually want to start working with you. It's more genuine, more authentic. So I'm a big fan of wanting to do this. I know some people don't. I've just found it to be incredibly helpful for me. I've been able to honestly get business from that because people just say, hey, I've seen you, your cat, your renovation. I have a very annoying cat. Things you do in Boise, I can relate and connect with this. And being able to kind of put that voice across. So I just think it's super, super, like I said, powerful. The other thing is I've actually seen Chelsea Peitz speak live, which was incredible. And I pulled some things from that. And one of them really is just being genuine. She's been such a mentor for me to follow online. And something this last year, probably like 6 to 8 months, really, I've been putting more and more like the personal stuff out there, struggles, like real struggles. And I think that it's important for people to kind of see those ups and downs. So again, that you are human, because you are setting that narrative. And it's done nothing but honestly help me and make me create even more connections. So why would I want to create another profile that's going to be here and it's just all the pretty stuff and maybe, photos of homes, when I could go through and base it off my personal and implement both of those things, and make it even, bigger. The other thing too, I say is if you're going to post about business, make it personal. So if you're going to go and you're going to post about a new like open house or a listing or something, why not put yourself in that? Or for us, we have like buyer guides. Why would I not get a picture of me holding that buyer guide and showing what it is that I do, putting my face with it so that they can kind of make that connection, instead of just posting a graphic or a photo of something else. So in my opinion, I think it's so smart to kind of merge the two, and obviously just kind of show your side and be professional, but I'm also not going to post a picture. I'm going to post a picture of me holding my wine glass too, because I think that's also me. So That's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Love it. I mean, I guess they call that a personal brand, right? That's what
right.
it is.
I know.
Both sides. So that's great. Good take on that and really good advice. Shivani, we've talked about this because we're in the same space, not just because we talk all the time and come up with ideas together, but when COVID hit, what would you say the impact on your content was and how your posting strategy changed, or did it change?
So prior to COVID, I was putting out a message of working with a mortgage advisor versus a loan officer, someone who's here to guide you versus someone who's here to sell you. And so a lot of my content kept hitting this home. And then we hit a period where things get difficult for a lot of our audience. And it was time to start, actually walking the walk of guiding people through something when they were scared, when they were in the middle of a refi, so stoked about a great interest rate, but then they got furloughed, or they were in the middle of a purchase. And I'm in Reno, Nevada, where we have casinos, and I have, people who've been put on furlough and we don't know when the casinos are going to reopen. And should they be really upping their housing expense by selling their current home and doing a move up buy? And so I felt like I really had to change. I really had to start delivering on what I had been promising online and in my content, and start sharing content to advise people through it. And that pivot, again, was really an awesome experience because I learned with my audience how we were going to navigate this new world together, which created more relationships and more community on my platform.
Love it. All right. Thank you for that. That was good. We're going to move into round 3 now. And then after this round, we will have Q&A. So hopefully everyone's been getting some good sound bites because these These have been some knowledge bombs for sure. Megan, I'm going to come back to you. So if I am a realtor or a lender and I've been, spending the first quarter here trying to figure out how do I make myself bulletproof in 2021 with my online presence, my online strategy, my business in general. What's your advice there? What are you telling people that they need to do? How do I start?
Yeah. So one thing that I would do is one, I already mentioned it, be that forever learner. Make sure, I relate this back to being a doctor. You don't want to go to the doctor that got his degree 20 years ago and has never picked up a book. You want to go to those individuals that are passionate and involved in what it is that they're doing. And this is going to help with creating content. It's going to help your confidence level when you're talking to clients, when you're talking to potential referral partners, what have you. People feel that. They're drawn to that. So that first and foremost is key. Invest in yourself and invest and be curious about why you do what you do and how it brings you purpose in your life. And then another thing, we talked about refis going down, but another thing that is part of that is there's going to be a lot of purchases. We also know that there's going to be a lot more first-time home buyers coming into the market when we look at past birth rates and how many of them are coming into the market. So you know that that's going to be a large target audience. And I know that we have originators listening on here as well and real estate agents. Oh my gosh, we got data that there are more real estate agents than there are homes for sale. So you know what that means? That means that you guys need each other. So reach out and start building these referral relationships. That from both sides is really going to help bulletproof your business.
Love it. Camaraderie and just partnering up. The collaboration angle, right? I mean, there's so many of those opportunities out there. Michelle, I know you're still in the airport there, so I want to get this off to you before you have to board your flight coming up. But you talked a bit about the various aspects of Instagram and of course why you like it, because it's all these different platforms in one. But what would you say for people that are just starting to get a grip on this and figuring it out, the main difference between stories and your feed, and what kind of maybe is appropriate for one versus the other? Do you prefer one over the other, or are they just very uniquely different?
So personally, I believe that each one of them serves a purpose, right? There's a purpose for your feed. There's a purpose for your stories. As far as personal preference, I would probably say I love stories more. I think almost all of us would probably agree with that. They're easier, they're funner, they're just off the cuff. There's no editing, like Chelsea was saying, right? It's just like post it, like do it, post it, share it. And I'm going to steal Chelsea's quote because I literally said this yesterday, and both Kyle Draper and I said it live on stage, but there's beauty in the mundane, or magic in the mundane is what Chelsea says all the time. And that's what stories are, right? And so for me, stories are behind the scenes. It's off the cuff. It's what's going on in my day to day. It's me sitting in an airport all day after talking for the last 2 days and getting on stories and just being like, anybody else out there just like super tired today? Because I'm tired, right? And just creating connection. And Caitlin, I wish I could go home and have a glass of wine because I would have one with you, but I'm going to have water instead. But, or like a LaCroix or something, right? But that's the difference for me, right? Stories are so fun. They're so easy and they're just random. Now there is a time and a place to incorporate business into them. And especially for the agents and the LOs that are watching, use it as an opportunity to get behind the scenes when you're doing a showing, right? Or when you're walking through a listing, or you're doing, a home tour with people. Also take advantage of interviewing your people at closing or showcasing the fact that you're walking into a closing, right? Use that for business and personal. Use polls, use stickers. There's so many different ways that you can get engagement in stories that you can't get necessarily on the feed. And why? Because your stories, if somebody responds to that, where does it end up, right? It ends up in a private message. So people are a lot more likely to want to talk to you about personal things or want to open up to you because it's a one-on-one message. So for anyone who isn't familiar with DM, right? Just like Facebook, it's you have a Facebook message going back and forth. DMs are the same thing on Instagram. So you get to have that more personal relationship with people there. Whereas like if you post on your feed, which we'll talk about now, but when you post on your feed, you're not going to get as many comments that are super deep and personal or longer messages like you would in a private message or a DM. Now your feed, for me personally, your feed is something that typically is more planned. It's more strategic as a whole, right? You actually can take yourself out of it and look at it as a big picture strategy, saying, I'm going to plan this 30 days in advance, or I'm going to come up with an opportunity to batch content, right? We're all busy. I think that's probably the number one thing that people like to say to me. I'm too busy for Instagram, or I'm too busy for this, right? But our feed allows us to batch and pre-plan. And I always tell people, base your content off of 4 pillars. My 4 pillars might be different than other people, but essentially we're all saying, in my opinion, really the same thing. Add value, showcase results, and showcase transactional history. If you want people to buy from you and actually believe that you're someone that can get the job done, you got to show that. Testimonials is another huge one. And to that point, one of the things I've really been pushing my students and clients to do right now is get testimonials in the form of video from your buyers and sellers and have them tell the story behind their transaction, right? If that person 6 months ago didn't have the credit to do anything and they now made it and they just crossed the finish line, or I just actually, no joke, heard this story yesterday. But there was a gentleman who was in the military who his wife was literally 2 months from having a baby, and didn't know that he had to or could buy a house with nothing down. He thought he had to save 20%. So he'd been saving, sending money home, saving. He saw a video from a realtor that had posted saying, if you're a veteran, did you know that you do not have to have 20% down to buy a house? His wife was able to move into a home before that baby was due, so that when he came home to a house, right? So there's something beautiful about showcasing that on your feed, that you can't really do in stories as much, right? Because it's probably a longer form video. And then the last piece of content, to Caitlin's point, is be really personal and show up unapologetically yourself, right? Show that picture of you drinking wine. Why? Because somebody else is going to look at it and be like, me too, right? And for me, it goes back to the very first point I made in the very first question, which is people connect to me from the things that I enjoy to do or I enjoy doing, right? Showcase that. I call them lifestyle images, but really it just means anything from your camera roll. Just show up, create a content cycle, plan it in advance, and you're good to go.
Awesome. Just trying not to be everything to everyone, right? Just staying authentic and just true to you, which is good. Caitlin, I want to get a lender perspective again here, in terms of changes, to your strategy that you made this last year. So like when COVID hit for you in your business and the people that you represent and coach and help up, what changes did you make to the strategy and things that helped and that you're continuing to do now?
I guess it ties in a little bit with what we said of making business personal. Because again, like there's really nothing that exciting about mortgages, right? It really is. It's about the house. They want to buy the house, right?
Right.
So,
nothing sexy about a mortgage.
there isn't. And then they want to, refinance, take that money to maybe, do home renovations, of which, by the way, TikTok is the whole reason I started my home renovation. And I'm pretty sure my fiance was like, please delete this, because it just kept going. So, but as far as like the changes on sort of what I was doing, and it ties back to, I think it was maybe Liz who talked about this as kind of being the mayor of my town. This really, really did benefit. So I coined the hashtag Boise Socialite. No one was using it. I really thought it was awesome. My fiance and I love to get out and about and do things and just kind of showcase like our community. What this allowed me to do was tap into like so many other people that maybe wouldn't have seen me before. And I was making sure, and this is, I guess, kind of tying into what Megan said, but basically our pillars of being able to say, this is kind of one of our things was going out, eating and doing this. So if this isn't your jam, I get it, but this was one of my pillars, one of my little things that were about me. So going out and immersing myself into the community and posting content that went along with that allowed me to get in front of other people that I wouldn't have. And then I made sure to post the work stuff in between so that they were able to kind of say like, oh, Caitlin does this. And then the next post, they would be like, oh, she works, at a mortgage company or mortgage bank. And so I honestly made that massive shift and just kind of went with it. I know I kind of mentioned it before, setting your narrative. People are really going to think what you allow them to think. This isn't meant to be in a manipulative manner. It's more or less of saying, like, this is what I want you to think of me. This is what I'm going to say in my bio, my posts, my stories, and staying consistent. And so I wanted everyone to know that even though I'm not the one personally doing the loans, because I kind of work in the sales role, that I was able to help people get in touch with a mortgage lender, right? And so, or mortgage banker. So that's basically what I did, is kind of jumped out there. It was different because I wasn't really doing much of that before, but I was able to get myself in front of a new audience. So does that kind of answer the question?
It absolutely does. Love it.
Cool.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Mhm.
Let me come back to, let me see here. I'm going to actually shift to Liz. Liz, this is definitely a very popular topic and a question I ask people as well, because there's so many agents, at least out on my market here on the West Coast, that work for a big name brokerage. And so the question for you, given your expertise and the time that you've spent online, should you promote your brokerage? Because that's sometimes the easy way out, right? Because they provide so much content for you, they want you to push that out, or should you just be building your own brand?
So I think there's two parts. If you're new in the business, I think it's definitely helpful to promote some of those things, but I integrate. I work for a big brokerage. I love where I work, but the key is that brokerage is always going to be there. And I need to build my brand so that people always know I'm going to be here. So whether I stay with my current brokerage or ever move, I think it's most important to work on your own brand. But starting out, you can do kind of showcasing them to leverage that you're with this big brokerage. And yes, going into listing presentations, people definitely want to hear those big names, but it should be a cohesive, and definitely always make sure that you understand at the end of the day, you are your brand. So no matter where you go, you need to put that work for yourself inside.
Love it. All right. Focusing on that brand. That's most important, because that's what'll travel with you. You're stuck with that, right? You're never going to be able to shed that. The brokerage name you may, but the brand itself will travel. So great. Thanks for that. Chelsea, this gets asked a lot in our space, whether they are lenders or realtors, because people are always wondering about ROI. You know, they jump to that question. And how do I monetize all this stuff? You know, you spend all that time on there, but does it make you any money? So what would you say to somebody now that comes up and just says, what are the lead gen opportunities with Instagram, as opposed to just being visible with your brand on there, or talking about stuff that you love, or showing your dog?
Well, I think that we would all agree that the first step before ever monetizing or thinking about it is to actually create, and show up and show your content and talk to people for a long time and connect with people. So let's just pretend we've done that. We're ready to maybe think about, all right, let's talk about lead generation, because there's organic and then there's also paid. And one of the things that I love about Instagram is that it really gives you this unfair advantage in, if you wanted to serve an ad to someone, why wouldn't you want to serve it to somebody who's talked to you multiple times in the direct messages, who has consumed or maybe binge watched your videos? So I know that there's people that have watched 2, 3, 10, 20 of my videos. And if I were to create an ad in the future and serve it to those people that I talk to on a regular basis and also have viewed my videos, there's a much higher chance that those people are going to convert, or at least say I'm interested or respond back, versus hoping that I can pick an area and I'm just going to send out, whether it's digital or mailers or whatever it is, people that may not know me. So I'm going directly for that warm audience that I have showed up for, that I have talked to, and that I've engaged. And so I'm a big believer in the organic strategies. Absolutely. Paid strategies and campaigns can be super effective and cost effective as well. But I think you have to build that organic side and build it for a while. And then, then you can add in some of those additional paid strategies. But with Instagram, you can retarget or create custom audiences of people who visited your profile, who sent you a DM, who've watched your videos, whether it's your Reels or your IGTV videos, or if they've engaged with any of your content, if they've liked any of your posts or saved any of your posts. So that's pretty awesome. I think that's a really cool strategy that even if you don't do it right away, you can have it in your back pocket. So if you're ready to take it to the next step and you do want to put some money into it, you're controlling the pool of people, and you're targeting people that know you, like you, trust you already.
Love it. Thanks for that, Chelsea. That was awesome. All right, Shivani, I want to come back to you. And Megan touched on this a little bit in terms of talking about market shifts and where we're heading. So we are clearly heading into another market shift. That doesn't mean the market is, going to be bad or it's going to slow. I think we can all agree that the markets that we work and represent in are going to remain quite active, and they've actually been something that's really propped up the economy. 10 years ago, it was, you didn't want to admit that you were in some of these industries. You had to kind of change your name or change your business card or not give it out. But now real estate and these respective spaces or ancillary businesses have really propped up the economy and been a big positive light and sign. So as we head into this shift with potentially some higher rates and changing moods and behaviors, what are your plans as a lender to use social to continue to further the business here in 2021 and beyond?
I think my answer to that is twofold, because I think needs to be a shift for my audience. And then I also want there to be a shift for myself. And a lot of your social strategy has to look at it from that 2 points of view. What are you doing for your audience, and what are you doing for yourself, for your business, and make sure they marry. So luckily for us, a lot of lenders were sleeping on social heading into this last refinance boom. So as Chelsea was saying, you have to have a foundation laid. You've got to put in some work and build something and build a community and build your platform before you're going to see a ton of return. For me, I spent 6 months to a year putting out content before I had a direct sale that came as a result from social media. But in that time, I had sales that were warmer or leads that were warmer because of social. But I had spent that time building it up and laying this foundation, and then market conditions aligned for me too. And so it was like this for my career. As we head into another market shift where the sales are not going to be as plenty, and you're also going to need to be advising your clients a lot more, I would say take some time to sit down. Like I said before, I started social, I figured out my mission and what message I wanted to spread. So my advice to all of you guys would be, take some time. What advice do you truly honestly have for your audience about how to handle this shift, how to handle a competitive housing market, how to handle rising interest rates, how to navigate these things, and then start putting out content for that. But on the other half of that, my personal goal is to challenge myself to change my content, because after a couple of years of doing this, it starts to feel like a full-time job, and it can get a little boring to put out the same kind of content. So for me, I want to challenge myself to do less formal content, less pre-shot videos, more funny stuff, more TikToks, more reels, more sharing the challenges, as Caitlin said, and all the hurdles we're going to overcome over the next year. And so for me, that's how I'm going to mix it up for myself to stay engaged with my platforms. And that's my advice to everyone out there, to find the two strategies to handle the shift and really thrive coming out of it.
And I think that applies to not just real lenders, but I mean, anyone in the space is thinking with that hat. And oftentimes we are so consumed with wanting to post or put out content that we think is valuable, as opposed to wearing the hat of that consumer audience member and trying to address their fears or thinking about what do they really want to hear. So that exercise, that time spent on putting yourself in the shoes of your audience members or your potential customers, past customers, current ones, and thinking about what do they want to hear? What are they afraid of right now? What are they most concerned about? What are they curious about? It makes your content strategy and your angle so much more effective and authentic, and it's going to connect better as opposed to just talking about what you want to talk about. So thanks for that, Shivani. We've gotten a really good number of some sharp questions from the audience via text and on the platform here. Some people have been texting them in live. So what we've done is we've curated at least just one for each panelist from the audience. And I mean, they're kind of on a range of topics, some of them a little bit more green, but I think that's good because sometimes the simplest of questions can, actually open up some doors and break some barriers for people and just help them get started. So I'm going to this first one was actually asked specifically to Chelsea, even though they did preface by saying this may be too simple for Chelsea. And that is, if I'm super brand new, what would your advice be for me on how to get started with video? Do I need equipment? Should I just use my phone? Should I hire a crew? This person is a real estate agent. they said, and they're very new to the business. This is their first year. So not a big budget necessarily, no marketing dollars being provided by their broker or anything. It's just them. How do I get started on video? Because I know I have to do this, but I just don't know how to, kind of get out the gate here.
I think that something we all probably can agree that we took away from 2020, and in a very different world that we still don't really know what to expect. There's a quote, and I don't know who said it. I certainly didn't, but I think about it often. Necessity is the mother of all invention. When you really want to do something and you have to figure it out, you figure it out. I think the best life experience I ever got was having a baby and thinking it was going to be like all organized and there was going to be like a thing. And then I was like, wait a minute, this isn't how I envisioned it. And then you got to do it. So I would say, and I still to this day just use my phone. I sometimes prop it up on a box or a shoe box or whatever it is. You do not need equipment. I still to this day do not use the equipment that I own. I have all of that equipment. I have the gimbals and all of those things. I do not use them. I also break out into a sweat when I have to edit anything. So the fact that I have learned very minimal editing, that means you can do it too. So if you want to, there is the University of YouTube. There's also the University of every single person that is on this panel. I know that I have videos on how to do it, and so do a lot of the people here. You can learn anything you want to learn on YouTube and figure out how to make a quick vertical video on your phone. And it's, again, going back to the parenting thing, you get better at it and you start to like look back and you think, wow, I know exactly what my kid's doing. Like if you're dropping him off at the babysitter and you're like, oh yeah, and if they do this, it means they need to do that. You don't know that in the beginning. So you have to go through the process of trying it. Lighting is going to make a difference. It's going to make you feel better too, because you're going to feel more confident because it's going to give you a better quality video. That is the one thing I would invest in when you're ready to have that budget. $50, $100, that's it. Until then, I've taken a lamp and taken off the lampshade. I have a beauty mirror where I pluck my eyebrows. That thing is awesome for lighting. Just stick it right here or sit in front of your window. And that's all you have to do. The other thing I'm going to recommend is that every single video you're going to create, I want you to get in the mindset of adding captions or closed captioning or some kind of text so that there's context. It's more inclusive, it's more accessible, it's search engine optimization, and I am a viewer of video with no sound. So I will not know what you're talking about if there's no context there, and I'm really, really into the habit of doing that, and I know that's a hard habit to do. So don't get equipment, just get started, use your phone, vertical video. Stories is probably the easiest one because it's super simple and fast and short. You get used to seeing your face and hearing your voice, and start adding text and or closed captioning to your videos.
Love it. Super, super sharp. Thanks for that, Charles. And I hope that answered your question out there, anonymous realtor. That was very useful. All right, Caitlin, you mentioned that TikTok was a big part of your guys' life here with this renovation project you guys did. And some people have asked, like, I don't know, what is TikTok? Is it for me as a realtor? Is it just for kids? What are your thoughts on it? Because you clearly, had a bit of an explosion in terms of, one aspect of your life from that platform.
Oh my gosh, I know. We actually just got everything finished like today, paint wise. We were really ambitious in it, painting, because we had like those 3 weeks at home, and then we went back to work. And I was like, oh, so I've been looking at like an unfinished ceiling for about a year. So Today's the day, painters just left. So it's so funny because in the beginning, I think everyone had this thought about TikTok that it was like these teeny boppers just doing these like dances and stuff. And I think maybe it was potentially like that in the beginning, but it has grown to the point that I actually taught 6 classes during quarantine via Zoom, and it was really fun. And one of them was solely based off of things that I learned off TikTok, dedicated to my iPhone and all the cool little things that I learned from it. And so this isn't just like 13-year-olds dancing. It actually is like incredibly smart people giving these bite-sized videos that are so, so informative. I learned how to do so many different things I didn't know through Instagram. And this is something that I'm consistently learning and educating myself on that people were showing me. I learned how to position myself in different videos, different apps to use for various things. So that was more like on the work side of things, which was awesome. And I will admit in the beginning, I was more of a consumer. I'm trying to get more and more into doing the videos. It's actually probably the easiest platform I've ever used to be able to edit a video. So I will say, like, if you're trying to do video editing, obviously Instagram stories are bomb. But if you want to go, oh, I want to create a quick video, TikTok is fabulous for that. But honestly, it's great because I also got the humor side of it, and people out there are so creative. It inspired me to do so many different things. It educated me on a lot of mental health issues. There was so much that TikTok brought that I still limit my time, because we will all get stuck in that little video hole where my fiance is like, please get off your phone. And so he's a very patient man. But I honestly think that TikTok is great. I would encourage everybody to get on it. I know it seems like, dang it, one more platform, but as somebody earlier in this panel mentioned, don't just consume, you need to create. So if you're going to put forth that time of consuming and, just watching the videos, you also need to kind of double up that time to start making those videos, commenting and engaging. So TikTok, powerful, clearly inspired me to want to stand down and spend, until 2 a.m. painting my stairs, because I saw one set of stairs that looked like mine, and create everything. And so, yeah, so it's a powerful tool for sure. And you can use those videos and literally upload them directly over to Reels on Instagram. Yep. Like double the content. So
yeah, it crosses over to other platforms. So that I wanted to ask you that too. So thanks for mentioning that, Caitlin.
Gosh, yeah.
Great answer.
And I know I've seen Shiva's and Chelsea's, your guys' Reels and TikToks. You guys are hilarious. So just heads up, you guys are a riot. Thanks for inspiring me.
Another piece of the personal brand. Megan, this question was for you. Somebody asked if they were going to merge or pivot their personal page to a business page, what posts or items would you recommend that they use to start this transition? Or is there a certain strategy they should do, or should they just drop it and start clean, fresh over? What would you suggest there?
I feel like everyone's going to have a difference of opinion on this. As far as Facebook is concerned, I'm a big fan of doing ads on Facebook. So you need a business page for that, but you can merge and cross post different posts. And that's a great way to kind of keep the feel of your personal page, but also at times those ones that are personal, but you tie in business, you can share cross post on your business page as well. And as far as Instagram, I really don't feel like you need a separate business page compared to your personal page. I feel like those can be very easily combined, and sharing your story, and you can share personal content that relates back to business, but is very powerful. And I actually find that to be some of the best, most engaging content. So it highly depends on what platform you're on, but at the same time,
specify.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Megan. Good advice there. Shivani, this one was for you from the audience, and they asked, it's a good question, what is a personal brand and why is it important to growing your business?
So for me, the answer to that is kind of what I talked about a little bit before, in that you want to use your marketing to attract the kind of client you want. So when you're developing your personal brand, you're thinking about, well, what's my message? What's my goal? Who's my target audience? But also you're meshing all of that with, who am I as a person? What does my audience really need to know about me to understand what it's going to be like working with me? And I think that the fastest way to solidify your personal brand is on social media, because you allow people into your life and they get to see your work and your personal space, and they get to understand who you are and what makes up how you do your business and why. And so in developing a personal brand, I think it's going to be a fluid process, but I would highly encourage you to be specific about the process. So when I say it's fluid, I think your goals, your missions, the advice you have to share is going to change. But underlying that is a piece of the personal brand that's consistent, authentic, and truly you, and it never changes.
Love it. Thanks, Shivani. That's a good recap of it. Liz, this is for you. This one came in. This one came in over text, actually. Somebody told me, I want to ask Liz this specifically. They said, I really do not like editing. They said, I would say I absolutely hate it. So while I love to post IGTV interviews, it's so high maintenance. I think I'd like to try IG Live, but it also terrifies me that only one person will be watching and then I'll feel so awkward. Do you have any suggestions for how to overcome this?
First of all, if you have one person watching, that's amazing. How lucky are you, right? It's like we expect so much.
Totally.
We think the first time that we do a live that we should have hundreds of followers and watching, and that's just not the case. Like even my own husband, I'm like, can you like at least comment? Like I see you commenting on other people's posts. How about my posts? So here's the thing. You're lucky if you have one. And I just think that what I do is that I always just do it, because whether you have one person or you have 50 people watching, you're still producing the content to build your brand. And you should be grateful for that one person or the 50 people to watch. So I really think that it's important just to do and to get used to it and to be better and better. And for example, you think of these amazing, great interviewers such as Oprah. Like in the beginning, how many people watched Oprah? Then she built her empire, and she goes by only her first name. How many people get that, right? So I think it's so important to stop overthinking, stop waiting for the likes, stop waiting for the followers, just do. Love it.
Absolutely love it. Perfectly said. Chelsea, this one is for you. Another one here. Your quick list, because this actually extends a little bit on what you just talked about for the novice who's entering in a video. But what they asked, what would be your go-to tools for content creation or maybe editing stuff, like your favorite apps, your recommended apps?
So I'm loving for transcribing and adding closed captioning. I really like Threads, like needle and thread. So Threads from Instagram. I also have been using Captions for TikTok. It's actually called Captions for TikTok.
Mhm.
And I pretty much edit, if I'm editing anything, I use Video Shop. And I have used other ones like InShot and a few other ones, but Video Shop is for some reason super easy for me to use. So I use that. And I've actually gotten away from using third-party apps now that it's gotten better and better inside of Instagram Reels. And as Caitlin mentioned, TikTok is great for editing. You could even create a video there and download it and save it without the watermark and use it in another platform. But again, you know, I didn't edit anything for about 5 years. And when I say I didn't edit anything, I would turn on the camera and I was like, I hope I make it in one shot. And that's all I would do. And then now what I do is if I have 3 points in a video, I'll record, you know, on my phone, 1 or 2, 3 takes of point number 1, and then point number 2, and then point number 3, and then I'll put them through an editing app and just edit. Cause now I'm like, okay, I think I can probably do that. But I don't really do much editing other than that, because quite frankly, I don't like it and I'm not really great at it, and it takes me a lot of time. So I just accepted the fact that, you know, people really come for the information that you're providing. And oftentimes people are probably not even watching my video when they're actually listening to it. So as long as they have it on and they're listening to it, or maybe it's on their, you know, they're getting ready in the morning and just listening to the content, that's perfectly fine. So start before you're ready. Do not let the editing get in the way and the equipment. Just start making something. And then later on, after you've made some, you can look into some of the editing stuff.
Love it. Thanks for that, Chelsea. That was an easy, a good answer for an easier question. Michelle, one quick one for you here. You haven't boarded yet, so I think I want to get this to you here before you.
They're about to call me, so let's go.
Okay. What would you say, it's titled directly to you, Michelle, is the best way to organically and authentically build quality followers?
Such a good question. The answer is, if you want engagement back to you, you have to be willing to engage. So Chelsea's 10-10-10 strategy, I have a 25 comment challenge I do for people all the time.
Yeah.
Whether it, like, ultimately, here's like my super rapid fire answer: 45 comments per day, choose it between 5 pages and 5 hashtags, choose a combination thereof that you want to engage on. Those hashtags you choose to engage on, make them where your clients live, aka people, here we go, aka people who are in your ideal audience or your ideal client. Wherever they hang out on Instagram, you go hang out, engage on 20 stories a day. 20 stories a day, 45 comments, you're going to crush it. do it authentically, answer authentically. Don't just say heart emoji, right?
Yeah.
When people reach out to me, if you just heart emoji a story, I'm not responding to you, right? But if you send me a message, if you send me a sentence, if you're asking a question, you're going to get my response all day long. So if you want engagement, give engagement and do it every single day. While maybe if you're in the Starbucks line, you're waiting to pick up your kid, right, in the long line at school, whatever it is, commit to it 100%.
Sage old advice, and it's never going to go out of style. That's awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me.
Thank
Bye,
you
guys.
for being on here. We appreciate you. Shivani, this one was for you. If I'm an LO, what would you say, because I love your TikTok, would be some ideas to use for that platform as a brand new loan officer?
So you will spend some time engaging and looking at things you like that other people have posted, and not necessarily in the real estate world. It's best if you can find like a song or a trend on TikTok that has nothing to do with real estate. It's just trendy right now and getting people's engagement. And you'll think of things like, so I'll see some trend. I saw one about that was to stop mom shaming. And she's pointing at all these blank reasons why she's a better mom than you. And then I was like, wait, I'm going to do this for something silly in the mortgage sphere. And I made it based on why you should not get pre-approved before you go shopping. So I think that if you spend some time looking through the videos, thinking at the same time, how could I spin this? How could I spin this? How could I spin this? Then it'll come easy to you and you'll have ideas.
Love it. Thank you for that, Shivani. Megan, this one is for you. And it ironically is one that you and I actually talked about during a collaboration maybe a year ago when everything got locked down. And that is, for lenders and realtors, what would you say the biggest no-no or the worst mistake that you're seeing in some of the content strategy out there is?
My biggest pet peeve right now is when people are talking about their production numbers, because at the end of the day, what your potential client wants to see is, oh, I've helped this many people, or, I've helped them solve these problems or these issues or these concerns. They don't just want to see you posting out there, oh, I've made this much money. This is how many transactions I've completed. That's probably my biggest pet peeve.
Okay, good, to the point. I like it. And I agree with that one. Liz, this one is for you. And it came from someone that watched a collaboration you and I did a while ago, and they wanted you to expand on it. So we did this one well over a year ago, shortly after we met,
Yes.
at the same event where I met Chelsea, where she was speaking at. So Liz, you took a different approach as a realtor with launching your social presence and being online. You didn't go the fancy route of the whole fake it till you make it. And I'm, gonna stand next to a fancy car all the time and be always dolled up and everything looking perfect and pretty. I'm brand new. I may not know much. I'm going to stumble. And you were really, really authentic about it. And someone asked, why did that approach work for you? And looking back, would you have changed it, or would you have still done it again?
That approach worked for me because that is me. I don't have a fancy car. I have a big SUV for my family. I don't look put together all the time because I think I claim that, or at least blame that I grew up with two brothers. But Shivani's always looking good, so I can't use that excuse. I'm just me. So I was sharing my truth. And you can't, when someone sees me on the street and I don't have that fancy car, what do you do then when you're driving your big SUV, right? So I really think people connect with people. Your friendships, your deep relationships are built on honesty and on people knowing you for you. So I still stand that I can't be anybody but me. And I think that everybody should go that route, because there is going to be people that relate to you and you build your tribe that way.
Love it. Thank you for that, Liz. Appreciate that answer. Cause yeah, we talked about that a while ago, and you've never deterred from it. I love it. Caitlin, this one's for you. How much prep work do you put into your video, or are you just pretty much ready, set, go? Is there a lot of planning that goes into it? Because all your videos that I ever see, I love, and they look so perfect all the time. This is a realtor in Miami.
I need to do so many more videos. Can I just tell you, I wanted to find I used to work in title and escrow, and I wanted to find the first video I ever did because I had it held up with a very old iPhone. I used to get made fun of for it. Facing me inside of a little pencil cup, and I had a pencil like holding it down and a stapler on the back balancing it out. And I would go and I would start and stop it with my finger, and I had this neon green wall behind me with the worst lighting. So I just did what you guys all kind of has said on this panel and just went with it. So if I could show you where I started, it was rough. And I even thought my editing was so great because I used iMovie, and it was like just like this blur transition to each thing. It was really rough. And where we were at, we really couldn't produce and actually give out much, I guess, like tips or any helpful things because of sort of the role I was playing. And so that was a bummer too, because we had to put out content that really wasn't that engaging. So we had to try to shine our personalities through. Me and this gal I used to do it with. So I'll say I started from the bottom, now we're here. I also am a big fan, kind of what Chelsea said earlier, like your YouTube University. I will go until like 2, 3 in the morning nerding out on how to do something. I'm also a fan of trying to keep it simple, but I have filmed every single thing that I have on my iPhone. And there is a way to really up your settings on that, by the way. I learned that from TikTok on how to film with the best quality. But basically going through filming that, and it also took me a couple tries. So kind of also, Chelsea, where you were saying that you would kind of film sort of your first, second, or third thing that you're going to talk about multiple times. My biggest thing is if you're going to film one video, why not film 4? And so if you're going to do it, by the time you hit your 4th video, you're a rock star. If that doesn't work, again, there's always wine. So I would just say going in, there's so many easy apps to use, you know, iMovie, Final Cut Pro, whatever. I had YouTube to help me a ton. I also hired a coach, Austin Schneider, which you guys all know, he's great, to really teach me and walk me through how to do that. So as far as like where they've come from, it's just been a lot of me getting mentoring and looking it up. But really, it really has just been my iPhone and using that. And then again, lighting, which is massive. And you can get cute things like mics off Amazon, which are super inexpensive, tripods, all that jazz. So
love it. Thanks, Caitlin. We're going to just button everything up now with one final piece from each of the panelists. And then I'll just close this out by thanking everyone. But real quick, from all the panelists, many of them shared this via stories, which was just their one line or one piece of advice to everyone here in 2021. In terms, whether it's about getting online, just starting, whatever it is. Some of them may even say the same thing because the advice is, you know, pretty familiar and pretty consistent. So I'm just going to let each of them just either repeat that same one that they had shared on stories this week leading up to the event, or if it was a different one, just one line, one piece of advice, whatever it might be, one sentence on what you as a lender, as a business person, as a title and escrow professional, as a real estate agent have to do in 2021. So Liz, I'll start with you, my friend.
I'm thinking what I told you. But here's the thing. Give yourself permission to at least try this. I think that especially as women panelists, we overthink the way we sound, the way we look. But I'm telling you, there are millions of women and men who are just there looking to you for some advice, some maybe entertainment, or some knowledge. And so whether I wrote something amazing before, here's the thing, put yourself out there, at least try. It's very important to be consistent. So once you get it, keep going every single day, and don't expect people to be like, oh my goodness, I see you everywhere. Not yet. Everything in life that's good takes time. No, you know, they say Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And neither will your business. So we know that by putting our head down and being consistent is key to anything.
Love it. Thank you, Liz. Chelsea, your one piece of advice.
So this is a newer piece of advice that I am telling myself now because I still have moments of imposter syndrome and overthinking, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to post that. And let's just take Liz and I, for example. Let's say the only difference, like we're not talking about like topics or what's in the video, but let's just talk about the actual creation of the video. The only difference between a video that Liz makes and posts on social and a video that I make and don't post on social is that I didn't post it. That is the only difference at the end of the day. And there is a huge difference in views versus value. You could get views. I get views on videos and nothing happens. I've gone viral on TikTok. Nobody sent me a TikTok shirt. Nothing happened from it at all. But you know, I have people that will say, oh my gosh, I watched that video from 3 years ago. And I'm like, you didn't even comment. I don't even know that you watched it. There is a huge value in reaching 1 or 2 or 3 people.
Love it. Thank you for that. Megan, your piece of advice.
We have been living in fear for the past year. Do not let this fear exist and keep you from taking action and building your brand and building your business this way.
Love it. Well said. Caitlin?
These were all so well said that I just needed to write them down. It's something I put on mine, and I feel like we've just really said it so many times, is really just start. Just post that picture, and it's going to be cruddy or amazing. It doesn't matter, but honestly, just do it. And a lot of my clients always ask, like, should I go back and delete all the bad stuff? And I'm like, heck no, like, keep it there. It shows that you've grown. So like, literally just start, post that picture, do that video, start that story. And sort of what Liz just said, just keep going. So honestly, it's just do it. Totally Nike'd out.
Okay. And my little sis, Shivani, you finish us out.
Get out of your own way. Your excuses are bullshit. You have time. You don't want to have your information out there. The government doesn't care about you. They're not worried about you. They got bigger problems. Just put your info out there. And any endless list of excuses for why you're not doing this, but you want to be successful in your business, go look at yourself in the mirror after you get off the Zoom. Tell yourself it's bullshit and you're starting tomorrow.
All right. That's about as good of a way we can end this. So I promised that we would try and punch this all out in an hour and a half. And it looks like we did. This was a very efficient event. Lots of information, but it was compacted. It is going to be recorded. You will see lots of clips from this over the airwaves on social media. I will do continued collaborations with all of these panelists individually, and you'll see more from them. You already see plenty from them because they're so active in their respective spaces. But I want to thank Tom Tran and TNT Productions for helping power this event, Brandtegic for all the artwork that they put together. The audience, we raised nearly $6,000 for the charity.
Oh my
between attendees and people that just wanted to support it and then wanted to, watch this later. So I can't thank you enough, because that charity I've been donating to throughout the pandemic. And I think it hits near and dear to everyone, because kids should be getting their meals despite not being able to attend schools that have been shut. And it's been a crisis. So I'm hoping we're all going to be able to, by way of this event, make a small dent in that and do our contribution. So thank you all for that, audience, for helping propel that. And for the panelists, commanding respect for all of you. We're all good friends. Much love to you. I'm related to one of you. I appreciate you all doing this. It was Women's History Month, and it worked out really beautifully. But this was a star-studded panel, and I think everyone can admit that they got a tremendous amount of value out of it. So thank you all. Really, really appreciate you all. We'll be back in touch. We will see you guys at our next event. Thank you, audience, for attending. And everyone have a great rest of your week and weekend. Thank you all.